Welcome back to Legalese 123, where we are covering cases across America. Hello, and welcome back to Legalese 123. We're going live. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Missy K. I hope everybody is having a wonderful and fabulous Sunday, December the 7th. How's everybody doing? Well, our weather is up and down and up and down. Had the S word the other day. It was snowing, and now it's just cold. Yep, feel like we're in the tundra. It's going to warm up again, and then it warms up, everything sort of melts, then gets cold again, freezes again. So it's like this melting up and down, up and down, up and down. So, how is everybody doing today? Unfortunately, so much going on in the world of courts that it is hard to get everything together. It is hard to put it all together and be able to do it all, right? Can't do it all. The Brian Walsh trial is very, very intensive. It is approximately 9 to 4 with just little breaks here and there. There is a lot of stuff that is boring, but what are you going to do? You're just going to have to just muddle on through it because there might be something that you're going to miss. So you just sit through it and you just do the best that you can and just write down as much as you can so that you can give up the updates. So, in my trial hearings that I'm doing, they're very long formats. I've tried to cut some of them down, but sometimes it's just really hard to post throughout the day as you're listening to the trial. So, unfortunately, that's the way live trials go. I do a case update at the end of every day or sometimes midday, depending upon if there is a particular person who is testifying that their testimony is controversial or it's definitely a high point in the trial. So I try to do a quick case catch up for the day and hit the highlighted points. So you can always go through and watch the channel and watch the trial, and you can watch just a specific person who's testifying, and then you could just adios, or you can go ahead and watch the whole thing. So you can pick and choose. That's what the good thing about YouTube is you just kind of scroll through or what have you. And I don't think that I'm still starting up my channel, so I don't think there's any advertisements on my channel right now that you could go ahead and just watch it on through. But I don't know because I haven't watched it on like the television. I always just watch things on the computer and it goes through anyways. I don't have any ads. But anyways, that's probably something I should check out. So before we get moving, please like and subscribe and share. Tell all of your friends what's going on. It's just trying to build up the channel here and get the word out of what these cases are. And it's also transparency, right? Trials should be public. People in the world should be able to go out and watch what's going on and making sure that you're elected or your appointed judges and the prosecution are doing justice. They're doing what you are paying them to do, right? And unfortunately, in the Karen Reed case, and in what they are calling Massachusetts, not Massachusetts, Massachusetts, that just things just are bizarre. You cannot make it up. It's like the upside down world of craziness. I just can't make this stuff up. When I tell you these things, they are actually happening. And you're like, how is that so? We're in 2025, ending out this year. We're getting ready for 2026. How are discovery issues still a huge issue? Is there corruption? Are police doing what they're supposed to be doing, or are they just half-assing things, right? We'll just do it later. Oh, we'll just give you that discovery later. Oh, I didn't fully investigate. I knew who did it, and therefore, there you go. This is the person. Here you go. We just download all phones, so don't worry about that. You don't need to worry if you got anything incriminating on your phone. Your rights don't matter. So, I can yell and scream to the highest horses, but I'm not a legal professional, but I am John Q. Public, just like you are. You're John Q. Public. You have a right to say things. And if something is happening in your county, in your state, in your district, wherever you are, you have the right to say something about it. So, transparency is what I'm trying to put forward. But also, more importantly, I'm also trying to alert you of all of the craziness that happens in this world. And believe it, yep, we're in 2025. The stuff still happens. Can you believe can you believe it? And people are thinking, I'm gonna get away with it. I mean, just look at Koberger, for example. Now, I do have to admit that he did an incredible job of trying to erase his tracks. And he deleted a lot of things off of his computer. He turned off his cell phone so they didn't get the location data. But where he messed up was he didn't realize that people were going to have modern technology in Idaho, right? In Moscow, Idaho, they don't know nothing, right? They do. They're the people who are teaching future Idaho kids at the university. They're professors, etc. There's a higher level of intelligence in that town. People have ring cameras, right? They had motion activated ring cameras. And if you watch Gray Hughes on YouTube, he has done an excellent job of placing where Koberger started from, where he went, and how many times he circled the house like a shark. And then eventually he unfortunately did the deed. But there's been a lot of video evidence that Gray Hughes has received. He did a FOIA request, received the data. He's still got one more, Floyd's Cannabis Shop yet, and basically just maps out exactly where he went. And I'm sorry, you connect the dots, right? Koberger owns this car. This car was the one that was circling. You can connect it to some other things here and there. Ergo, he did it, right? And then he also pled guilty. So he admitted to doing it. And now he's in prison forever. We hope. So, enough of me blabbing about that. What are we going to talk about today? Well, unfortunately, I didn't get to do my case catch up on Friday. That is why I have it marked out. I was hoping to do it yesterday, but we didn't get to it yesterday. So here we are. What is going on in all of the cases that I'm covering. And if you are interested in learning about more cases, or you have something that's coming up, or you've got something in your ear and you want to know more about that case, let me know in the comments or shoot me a message on Instagram or TikTok. I'm on all of the platforms. Let me know what you're interested in and I'll see if I can cover it. So let's get started. So, not Friday case catch up, sorry. Sunday case catch up. So, again, like I said, the Brian Walshe case is every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. That case, we'll go back into it. That case is very long and it's a long day. And then by the time I upload all the content and do all the things, it can be pretty extensive. Hold, let me get something to drink here. Talking a lot. So let's begin. Oh, well, who do we have first? Hello. Brian Walshe versus Massachusetts. If you don't know the Brian Walshe case, you haven't been listening to me. Brian Walshe is being accused of unaliving his wife, Anna. And the case gets really deep. So we are thick into trial. Week 1 has just transpired and we are in the thick of it. And so I am sitting back and I am listening and watching as a juror, just like you are. I know some bits and pieces outside of it. I've seen some motions. I've heard some rumblings about what has and hasn't been done. So I know a little bit about sort of the background behind it. So it's not a huge thing. Oh no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. Sorry, playing around just to see what it looks like. I don't want to do that either. Okay, no. Let's do this. Okay. Make that bigger, make me smaller. All right. So, Brian Walshe versus Massachusetts. He's accused of unaliving his wife, chopping her body up, and throwing her in many different dumpsters throughout Massachusetts to I guess you could say, get away with it, right? As we are watching this trial and we are learning, the prosecution is currently in their case in chief. The prosecution goes first. The prosecution tells you all of the alleged things that this person has done. Then it's the defense's turn, their case in chief, to say, no, the prosecution's wrong. This is what happened. And then, therefore, it goes to the jury. Then the jury gets to decide, based on the facts that came into the case, whether or not he's guilty or he's innocent. And again, I'll reiterate that he is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Let me back that up because he had 3 charges against him. He had the unaliving M, he had lying to the police and putting them on a goose chase trying to look for her because he claimed that she was missing, and we'll get into just a second. And then the third one was improperly disposing of a body. He pled guilty to lying to the police and the disposal of a body. He will be charged with those crimes. He hasn't currently right now because he did this just before the trial happened. So he hasn't been convicted. But let's back up even further because Mr. Walsh was also had a federal case. Mr. Walsh had sold a fake Andy Warhol to another person. And again, this we talk about the tipping points as to what makes a person do the things that they do. And my personal opinion is that he knew just before Christmas, I want to say around December 27th is what I'm piecing together, but it hasn't been quite stated what that date is, that he knew from his lawyer, Tracy Minor, that the prosecution in that federal art fraud case, that he was not going to get probation and that they were seeking to incarcerate him. They didn't know exactly how long he was going to go to jail for, but they knew there was an impending issue that he would be serving time, but they didn't know how long at that moment. I think not until earlier 2024, I think. No, maybe it was earlier this year. Anyways, I have to go look at the dates when he finally got sentenced. Because this happened in this happened in 2023, is when she was unalived, and he got sentenced in 24, so well after she had passed. So what does that mean? So they knew in December, I think they knew on December 27th, 2022, that he was going to go to jail for the federal art charges. That is one of the many, many things that were happening in the lives of Anna and Brian. And that is potentially how and why things unfolded the way that they did. It could be that, sort of the thing goes, I'm going to go to jail anyway, so why not just do this? Although it does pain me that again, he's innocent. He's innocent until proven guilty, but that we do know he improperly disposed of her. So, ergo, one could add up the pieces and say that something happened to her and she's no longer with us, but she's no longer a mom to her children. And currently, right now, the children do not have anybody that is a family member taking care of them. Brian's mother, Diana, who we've heard about a little bit here and there, she actually is in the courtroom. She is physically not well to take care of the kids. Anna's family, her sister, I believe, lives in Canada. Her mother is unwell as well, and her mother lives in Serbia. So I believe it is reported that her children, Brian and Anna's 3 boys, are in the state's custody, which is really sad. So what did we glean this week? So MSP Trooper Nick Garino testified. If you haven't heard of him, he is all over Karen Reed's case. He's all over the Sandra Birchmore case. He is a forensic tech person who goes and looks through all of your devices to look for anything and everything. Remember, your phone lies or tells on you. You can't cover up any lies. It's going over your what did you search for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Same thing. So Nick Garino was in charge of, remember, Brian Walsh turned over 3 devices. That's still in contention, but it's coming in. And that Nick Garino found that his MacBook synced with the iPod because they had the same Apple ID. And therefore, what was on this iPad mini, I believe, the searches synced to that device, and therefore Nick Garino saw that he was searching for a whole bunch of naughty things. Then Trooper Connor Keefe testified to the location data and said that Brian Walsh was here and there and everywhere. And when in the beginning, when the officer from Cohasset had testified, Mr. Harrison Schmidt, he had interviewed Brian Walsh from the beginning, because in the beginning it's a missing persons case. So they're trying to find out, where is Anna? She kind of lives in Cohasset, but has moving to DC. She's got a big job there. She actually bought $1 million townhome that she was going to have Brian and the children come and live with her. But again, this pending federal case was huge. He was essentially on house arrest to an extent. He was allowed to go out during the day, during a specific time frame, and take the kids here and there, because he was the primary caregiver for the children, and the feds let him do that until they were getting ready to sentence him. But Anna had a better job and she was moving to DC, and I personally think that she was going to start a new life. Brian was eventually going to go to jail, and her and the kids were going to move to DC to start anew. And that, again, is another point of contention as to why or what happened to her. So, if you've been following along so far, is the prosecution setting up a good case for conviction? There are text messages between the both of them. They're arguing. She did not come home she lives in DC, so she works in DC. She comes home periodically to Boston, Cohasset area to be with the kids and Brian. But apparently she wasn't doing that. She didn't come home for Thanksgiving. She came home like early December. She was supposed to come home early December. She didn't do that either. She was supposed to come home for Christmas, and her flight had gotten canceled or delayed. That is still kind of wishy-washy, but because JetBlue said the flight went, but maybe it was delayed. I'm not really sure the state of mind of Anna at the time, but obviously we do know, and it is in some messages somewhere, that, and also, well, Brian and Anna argued whether or not she was coming home. It was Christmas Day, the 25th of December. She was supposed to fly home, flight canceled, delayed, or whatever. She didn't take the flight. She ended up getting a refund. She eventually said she was going to drive up, and she did. So she drove from Massachusetts to Boston, and she got there sometime around 8 p.m.-ish to spend the day with kids or whatever. But we do know that they had a huge argument that day about whether or not she was coming. And then she apparently flew back to DC and was there. And then she was due to come back on the 30th of December to spend New Year's Eve with Brian and their good friend Jim Mutlu. Now, in the meantime, it has also been discovered that she has a lover. His name is William Fastow. Part of the controversy is did Brian know that Anna had a lover? William Fastow testified earlier this week. You can go look at the show notes and go look and see when he testified, and you can just go look at his testimony. William Fastow did not really testify completely as to all the dirt that we wanted to hear, right? He didn't know whether or not Brian knew about their affair. He thought that Anna spoke very highly of Brian and didn't want anything to happen to Brian or for Brian to learn about her affair through anybody else. She wanted to tell him. So that's kind of what the text messages are. Uh, William Fastow did go ahead and download his text messages and put them into the record, but we as the public didn't get to see them. Wah wah wah. But that's the way it goes. The Google searches, oh boy. He went to town and almost immediately on the 1st of January 2023. Something happened to Anna somewhere between, I want to say, approximately 3 a.m. and almost 5 a.m. because he started Googling at 4:52 or 4:54 in the morning. I don't have my my spreadsheet up. So let me see if I can get it up. I have a timeline that I created, and now I'm just kind of going off of my head, and I should have the timeline up. Brian Walsh timeline. All right. So let me bring this over here. All right. So, the other thing too is they talked about properties. Anna and Brian were selling a property, and then it looks like they were gonna buy some properties in Baltimore, Maryland area. It's not close to DC. So in this time frame, it's kind of interesting, but he also he's searching. This is December 27th. Apparently, maybe again, I think they're having an argument, but we don't know the context of the argument. And he is searching for rings, and then in between the rings, he's searching for divorce, best divorce strategy for men, best states to get divorced, 5 and worst states to get divorced in the U.S. And then he's talking about getting her a Porsche. Uh, and then he also is looking at the credit card statements. And so the prosecution's trying to be like, okay, listen, he wants a divorce. And now he's looking at the credit card statements. So if he's looking at the credit card statements, does he know what Anna's doing? Where is she purchasing things? Because in November, when she was supposed to be home for Thanksgiving, she went on a trip with her lover to Dublin, Ireland, and then she went on to Serbia from there. So, what did she tell him? Unfortunately, the police only got a search warrant to search from like December 24th on through January, I think 5th, January 4th or 5th or something like that. And that's the time frame. That's it. No more, no less. And that was what one of the questions of the defense said. Hey, why did you only choose this time frame? Why didn't you go earlier or why didn't you go later? And Connor Keefe is just like, well, that's what I was told to do. That's what the search warrant was. And so the defense said, well, if you know of something, if you see something that might lead you to investigate further, then why don't you investigate further? Why don't you get a search warrant to expand the dates and times? And he's like, well, this is all that I was told to do. And so he said, well, who told you to do this? And guess whose name came up? Trooper Michael Proctor. Yep, can't make it up. He was the lead investigator on the Walshe case. What's going to happen there? I don't know. So Connor Keefe is like, not me. Here's where I am. So what else did he text for or search for that is kind of telling, right? Um At some point in time, he texted about William Fastow. So I think on the day that she was supposed to arrive on the 25th, I think that might be the first time that he texted or started searching on the internet about William Fastow. Because here's the thing, December 25th is a very pivotal day. She's supposed to be on a plane and she's supposed to come to Boston. He knows this. She knows this. She doesn't contact him. He's contacting her. He's constantly messaging her, trying to get in touch with her. He's like, "Hello, hello, what's going on?" She doesn't respond. So when and this isn't the first time that he has messaged her and she hasn't responded. And I think the last time that happened, because this is what he said in the he had several interviews with the police, and this is what he said, that the last time she hadn't contacted him, he then went and contacted her coworkers, and she said, "Don't embarrass me. Don't ask my coworkers where I'm at." She's like, "I'll get to you when I get to you," which again is that strife, right? It is really easy if somebody texts you you can even do like an auto reply text, right? Or you can give like an emoji. It takes 2 seconds just to reply to somebody. And the mere fact that you aren't responding, I'm sorry, that says that you don't want to, right? Or sometimes you look at it and you forget to respond. I've done that. But that's a problem, especially when you're married to somebody. So, long story short, I keep saying that, sorry. To continue, he then starts spiraling, right? So he starts looking up uh, things about William Fastow, another a person named Jeff in that works with her at Tishman Spire. He Googles what happened to um, what happened to sorry, I thought I had it here. It's all right. That's fine. He starts Googling plane crashes. He Googles JetBlue because that's her preferred airline. He Googles Anna Walsh dead in airplane crash. He thinks that she's on a plane and she's not responding because she's no longer with us, right? And the prosecution, when they first did that, they put it in the context like, oh my gosh, he's premeditating the going to do something to her. And the defense very cautiously said to Trooper Connor Keith, "Hey, when you look at the text messages and you compare it to the Google searches and you compare it to the location data, etc., and you put it all together, you get a full picture of sort of the mindset of Brian Walsh and Anna Walsh, right? But if you just cherry pick some things that you found in the Google searches and you don't line it up with the other things, you're just throwing things out to the jury that you think are pertinent that aren't necessarily what the case is about." And I thought that was a very good point, good defense strategy. So, long story, in the end, Anna eventually contacts him, but not before his head had spiraled and he was Googling all of these terrible things. She finally contacted him, I want to say around 11 a.m., but don't hold me to it because I don't have my timeline together. Around 11 a.m. ish or so, and contacts him and says, "Hey, my flight has been delayed or canceled," whatever she said. "I'm going to drive." And so that's when this communication starts and they start communicating with one another. She comes home, everybody's kumbaya, yay. But then remember, she leaves. She leaves and she doesn't come back until the 30th of December. And so she comes home on around 7:30 p.m. The next day was a Saturday. She went to a bar class, she got her nails done, and then she took her kids to an indoor play place in Canton. And then later on that evening, Jim Mutlu comes over. They have champagne, they have a big dinner, etc. And everything's copacetic and everything's great. And Later on that evening, Anna takes a photo of herself and her child and sends it to William Fastow. Does Brian Walsh know that? Does Brian have access to Anna's information? We don't know for sure, but it's slightly coming up here and there that perhaps he might have her Facebook Messenger messages back and forth, but we still don't know that for sure. Something happens to Anna in the middle of the night, and she's unalived, or as the defense put it, she didn't wake up. And so, but the defense says that Brian panicked and therefore he didn't know what to do with her. Instead of calling 911, he Googles how to best ways. His first Google search at 4:52 a.m. is best way to dispose of a body. And then how long for someone to be missing for inheritance, that is his next, well, that's the next one that the prosecution put together, but he had some other searches in there. How long before a body smells, 10 ways to dispose of a body, um, and just a whole bunch of stuff in a slew of things. My wife is missing. What should I do? How to dispose of a computer? How to dispose of a cell phone? Can ID be made on partial remains? Your spouse is missing and I want a divorce. Hello, divorce. Best ways to dispose of body parts after M. How to clean up a dead body. He watched a YouTube video. How to clean up blood from a wood floor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the prosecution, unfortunately, showed us a video of Brian dumping something into the trash. It was a very sad and telling video. So you see Brian Walsh come and pull up. He gets out of his vehicle. Well, you don't see him get out of the vehicle because he pulled around the corner. You see him walking towards the dumpster. He has a black trash bag, and you can tell it's heavy by the way that he's holding it and the way that he's walking, and then obviously disposes of it. By the time the police got the download information from his computer, from his, well, it started with the iPhone Mini 13, I believe, or iPad. It's so confusing. They got the information from the son's device. I believe that was early morning hours of Saturday the 7th, and then they came back to the home on the 8th of January with the warrant, got his MacBook, which is what he actually did, and downloaded all the information. And then I believe after the 8th of January, they then dispatched themselves because they had the location data, dispatched the police to the approximate areas where he was in the dumpsters and try to see if they could, when those dumpsters were last dumped. And they did find one area of a dumpster and a compactor that hadn't been taken during his escapade of throwing things in the garbage. They located some of his garbage. They found all of the instruments, a hacksaw, some snipping shears, some snippets, a hatchet. And then they found, that was one thing that they found. They found a whole bunch of her articles of stuff, a jacket, her purse, the stuff in her purse. So some of her belongings. They could not find her cell phone. That we finally determined they were unable to locate her cell phone. And they also found bloody towels, bloody bathrobe, slippers that had hair fibers on them. It could be some other particular matter on there, some tissue. They found a rug that was apparently in their living room, but I'm still not sure exactly where that was placed at in their home, that had been cut up and had bloody material on it. And where we just left off was the medical examiner. The medical examiner is going to go ahead and look at that carpeting to find out whether or not there's tissue on there. And then he's going to give his opinion, probably about, is this person still with us? Because remember, there's no body in this case. The police did not retrieve anything from Anna. When you have no body, a medical examiner cannot tell you how this person passed, right? They have nothing to look at, nothing to assume. So that is the question of the day. What happened? How did Anna pass? So they did the photos from the dumpsters. They also did a video of him at the dumpster, the location data. Where was Brian when he was interviewed by the police? He was still on the assumption that he was playing along, that she was missing. And they asked him, well, where did you go? And what did you do? And they have a list of all the places that he went to. Well, the location data told on him that he wasn't at those areas that he said that he was. And actually, he was out and about doing other things. There will be video evidence that's going to come in of him purchasing chemicals and stuff like that. We do know that's going to come in as well. So, what's next for the Brian Walshe case? The judge on Friday stated that the case is moving along very nicely. They had estimated 3 to 4 weeks, but remember, they still had the other 2 charges that they were going to incorporate. They're not doing that anymore because he pled to them. So the trial is going to be much shorter. She estimated that the trial might be finished around the 19th of December, which then could go to the jury for deliberations. And if that is the case, then they could potentially even deliberate the week up and to Christmas, right? So I believe the courts are open the 22nd, 23rd, and maybe early morning hours of the 24th, which is Christmas Eve. So could this case be over by Christmas? If I had a guess, I would say yes. I don't like that for Brian Walshe. I don't like it for anybody when you have a court case that butts up against a holiday. Jurors want to be done with it and get over it and move on, especially in this case that they're not allowed to be on social media. You want to be on social media during your holiday break, don't you? So my guess, this case will be over before we hit Christmas. So again, make sure you like and subscribe and follow for more content, especially when I just do daily updates in this case, or I do like half day updates, what have you. Or if you want to watch a particular person who's on the stand, or you're interested just like I am and you want to learn more, follow my case updates. All right, let's move on. Miles King versus Massachusetts. So Miles King was indicted for first-degree murder against Marquise Simmons and carrying a firearm, blah, 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 right? He had a status hearing this last Friday. And unfortunately, Rosemary Scapicchio, who is his attorney, failed to file a response to the motion that they were going to argue in court, which was a motion over discovery. Well, she didn't file her paperwork or her response. She thought that she did. She didn't. She did end up filing it. So at the hearing, they didn't do diddly squat. It was only like 3 seconds. So there's not much to report. They are due to have another hearing on December the 10th at 9 a.m. over this discovery motion hearing. What that's about, I'm not sure. But I do know that at the end, she said it was about, guess who? Guess who this man down here at the bottom is? Yes, you're correct. If you'll see, I have put Mr. Proctor wherever he is. He is been the detective on the case, right? Here's Mr. Proctor here. And now Mr. Proctor is here. Mr. Proctor is former trooper Michael Proctor, has been a fired Massachusetts state police officer in the bias in the Karen Read case. How and so and what? He had sent text messages to a group chat about Karen Read approximately 10 hours after he had received the case and basically said, she did it. We got her car. I'm going through her phone right now. No nudes so far. And then called her a whole bunch of disparaging words like the see you next Tuesday and a bunch of other derogatory things. And in that, Mr. Proctor, so remember the feds were investigating Karen Reed. They got Proctor's text messages off of his phone and his personal phone because he used his personal phone at work. FYI, people, if you use your personal phone to do work stuff, it is discoverable. Just saying out there. So keep your work and your private life separate. So everybody who had cases after Karen Reed wants his text messages, especially if Michael Proctor was the lead investigator on your case. Because as Rosemary Scapicchio said, if he's saying things just derogatory towards Karen Reed, what is he saying about African American clients, Latino clients, etc.? What is he saying? So there was a big hub because Proctor's messages were going to be destroyed. They halted everything, finally got the feds to release those messages from Proctor. Then Judge Krupp said, well, guess what, Mr. Proctor? We're going to go ahead and we're going to allow the your personal cell phones messages and stuff to be downloaded as well. And he's like, go ahead. I got rid of that phone in 2024 and everything should be copacetic and everything should be great. So it's okay. No, Mr. Proctor. You forget about the iCloud or the cloud, right? You guys should know these things. This is your job of expertise, right? You and Celebrate and all your little buddies, you guys are all together. You guys should know this information that when your cell phone lies to you, right? Your cell phone tells on you. Your cell phone tells what's going on. So, sorry, Mr. Proctor, your phone lied to you. Your phone told on you. So they have approximately 10,000 messages and contexts and texts, etc., and whatever. And so everybody who has Mr. Proctor as their lead investigator, there's currently 19 cases who get his messages, and we are hoping to see what some of those are. Now, we're not going to see everything, and we're only going to see the ones that are involved in the cases that pertain to those particular clients. For example, Miles King can't get the stuff from Brian Walshe because it doesn't pertain to him. But whatever pertains to King, it will come out. So Miss Scapicchio messed up on Friday, but that's okay because they have a discovery motion hearing on the 10th at 9 a.m. And hopefully we'll see. I mean, the last time we left off, Rosemary Scapicchio had Adam Lawley and Trooper Michael Proctor were supposed to be on the stand, and she was roasting them left, right, and center. So hopefully he gets to go on the stand and she can ask him anything that pertains to the Miles King case. Like, why haven't you turned over discovery? Why didn't you do this? And why didn't you do that? So we're hoping for another Rosemary Scapicchio barbecue and hoping that Trooper Michael Proctor is that person because she did mention his name, mention it all. She mentioned his name at this hearing. So we will see. So hopefully we can get some coverage of that. And while we're also doing the Brian Walshe case, I can't make this stuff up. It's like left, right, and center. So that's on Wednesday. All right. Moving on. Next up, we have Aiden Kearney versus Massachusetts. Oh boy. If you don't know who Aiden Kearney is, he is a YouTube presenter. He has been a huge factor in the Karen Reed case. As you see, he has been dubbed the crowd daddy. He has gotten a gazillion of supporters in the Karen Reed case. He has been instrumental in helping the defense find exculpatory information about who knows who in Canton. I can scream it to the top of the world that Canton is a small place. Everybody knows everybody. I should put Michael Proctor on here too. Do I have Michael Proctor on here? I do. Okay. Guess what? Michael Proctor is involved in this too. Um, Aidan Kearney has been instrumental in the Karen Reed case, helping the defense go through and find exculpatory evidence that will help her tell that there has been a, you could say, collusion in this case, that some of the witnesses are conspiring together to either fabricate a story or to pin it on Karen Reed, and that they're trying to absolve themselves of the mysterious death of John O'Keefe. There's been butt dials. There's been people lied and said that they were somewhere where they were somewhere else. They said that they didn't know this person and they ended up knowing these people. There's a lot of mysterious things happening in the Karen Reed case. Who knows what? And people are trying to say, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. She did it. This happened. That happened. But everybody's got something going on and nobody knows what the truth is. And so Aidan Kearney was a massive help in that situation, as well as he's a journalist. So he is reporting, he's investigating, he's trying to find out what happened to John O'Keefe. And in this, he has YouTube presentations where he goes on and talks about all of the players involved in the Karen Reed case, even those who are relatives, even those who know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. Aidan was instrumental in helping them find the snowplow driver that the police didn't investigate. The snowplow driver came out at 3 o'clock in the morning and plowed 34 Fairview. Didn't see John O'Keefe's body on the lawn. When did his body get there? If Karen Reed didn't hit him and he wasn't there after, 12:30 a.m. approximately, then where was he? So Aidan Kearney is very vocal. He is very, very excited about this case, and he has let it known that he is a force to be reckoned with. So, unfortunately, when he did that, he had witnesses in the Karen Reed case who wanted him to stop talking. He did have a rolling rally where he would go out to these people's homes with a megaphone and had like a parade of Karen Reed supporters yelling and chanting things. And one of the things he did chant was that they were murderers and that they needed to tell the truth. Well, they didn't like that. And so they have a direct connection to the district attorney's office, Michael Morrissey, and they said, stop it. Stop him from telling people about us. Stop him from talking about us. Tell him to stop. Can you do something? And so Michael Morrissey, as well as Mr. Proctor, who Mr. Proctor texted, we have to do something. Can't we do something? What do you think that we can do? Well, they ended up putting some charges on him. They said that he needed to be charged with witness tampering or witness intimidation. And so, therefore, that's what they did. So he has a whole bunch of charges on him for intimidating witnesses in the Karen Reed case, as well as then he got a new charge in 2025 where we call it he was intimidating a window. He was outside D&E Pizza in Canton, who is owned by Chris Albert. Chris Albert's the brother of Brian Albert. Brian Albert owns the home 34 Fairview where John O'Keefe was found deceased on his lawn. It's a long story. If you don't know, go look at the show notes in Karen Reed's case. Go to Aidan Kearney's YouTube presentations because, boy, he just talks about it all the time. So Aidan Kearney is facing a lot of charges. He could go to jail for a very, very long time. This is very, very serious. People don't think it's serious, but it is serious. And what is the heart of the matter of Aidan Kearney? And who is he? He's just some YouTube guy, right? In the context, sure, he's just some YouTube guy. But in court, and you've got charges on you, he is a real person who could be facing lots of jail time. He does have 2 small children. Well, they might not be small now. Mid-aged children, 6, 7, something like that. 6, 7. And he might have he's, even though he's not married and he's divorced, he still has children that he needs to take care of and he provide for, etc. Right? Nobody wants to see somebody go to jail over witness intimidating charges because they're on YouTube saying stuff. Please, if you don't like it, sue them for defamation, right? But you can't just put charges on people just because you want to, right? It doesn't work like that. Although in this case, it sort of did, right? So, what's at stake here? What the heart of it is, and any journalist, me, journalist, you watching, is your First Amendment, right? The First Amendment, the right to say whatever you want. Now, you have some limitations. You can't go spouting off things about the government. You can't start saying this, or that without getting some charges on you, right? But you know what you can and what you can't say. Calling out somebody and telling them to tell the truth, calling out somebody and saying, you murdered somebody, tell the truth. There are reporters who are at people's houses all the time, spouting things all the time. What did you do? Gabby Petito's situation. They were outside the laundry house yelling and screaming at them all the time. Where's Gabby? What did you do with her? Did you do something to her? None of them got charged for witness intimidation. Now, mind you, he wasn't on trial just yet. But think about all of the other situations where reporters are outside people's houses or reporters track down somebody and go on the streets and go find them. This is what Aidan Kearney's doing. He's just reporting. He might report some of his opinions and stuff because that's what he can do because he's not limited from the networks. He can say whatever he wants. You can say whatever you want. So your First Amendment rights are at stake here. So, this has been going on since 2023. And in Massachusetts, there are no speedy trials. Well, you could, I guess, and you could if you wanted to in certain cases. But as uh, Kearney's defense attorneys state, both Tim Bradel and Mark Betterow, you sometimes don't want it to go super fast because you want all the discovery. You want to know, what does the state have on you? And in Aidan's case, they're still getting discovery. They're still getting more discovery in. And sad to say, they're not getting it from the prosecution, which is where you're supposed to get it from. They're getting it from other witnesses or people who have done a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, about other stuff that's going on in Karen Reed, because unfortunately, Karen Reed and Aidan Kearney, they are stuck together. You can't have one without the other. Even though there's been a lot of controversy about Karen Reed and Aidan having fights and stuff like that, they still are intertwined with each other and they still need each other. So they're going to have to play nice at some point in time because they're going to need each other. So what's at the crux of this? Aidan is facing years in prison if this goes through and he gets convicted on these charges. There's been so much happening. In the beginning, they hired a special prosecutor. Do I have that? Nope. I must have taken that away. Okay. So they hired a special prosecutor, Ken Mello. Ken Mello got sick. So now they got a new special prosecutor, Robert Cosgrove. Cosgrove was a former judge in Canton. He's off the bench now. And interestingly enough, the new judge in Aidan Kearney's case has replaced Cosgrove. You can't make this up. I'm serious. It just, like, these stories continue to get convoluted, more convoluted and convoluted. Just can't make it up. So the new judge just started, and they had a status conference hearing just on Friday in Aidan's case, which is really good. The new judge stated that prior judges have been conflicted off of this case. Cosgrove was a former judge. That might be one of the reasons why. There might be something else. I can't speculate. I don't know. Just know that the new judge said they were conflicted off. He's got the case now. So on Friday, there was a status hearing at 2 p.m. And I want to say his name is Judge Belazos. I could be mistaken, but that is how I see it pronounced. This judge was very refreshing. Even though he is from Canton or what have you, but he just seemed really, he sounded really good. He sounded really like, okay, we need to know what the merits of this case are. We need to find the crux of what's happening and how do we move forward. And he was like, let's charge on. Status conference hearing should be, okay, where's discovery? When's the next status conference hearing? When are is there going to be an evidentiary hearing? Is there going to be a discovering hearing? What's happening here? What is each side arguing, and do we need to have a hearing on that? He was just like, let's go down the list. I have a list, so let's go ahead and boom, 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 boom. How do we get this set for trial? It's either set for trial or dismiss, right? Those are your cases. And he was like, let's get this train moving. So he's like, well, when can we do this? And he's like, how about early December, or sorry, early January? And unfortunately, Cosgrove is a force to be reckoned with. He's like, no, I'm gonna be out of town. I'm going to Europe. And I'm just like, oh man, I feel bad for Aiden. I really do. This is just, it's like, how far can the Commonwealth just drag this out? But the Commonwealth, it's partially, it's like it's at a snail's pace. It's such a snail's pace, right? Cosgrove so something I didn't know that was brought to our attention was that um apparently they can electronically file things, but the court requests paper copies of the stuff to be given to court. And apparently that might be tough on Cosgrove, he getting that stuff to the court and filing it at that time. What's going on in Cosgrove's life that he can't do that? He's a retired judge. I don't know what else he's got going on, but he obviously missed filing the last motion, and I don't know. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Apparently, Ken Mello still has some discovery that he's piecemealing. When I say piecemealing, I mean literally. Here you go. Here, let me send this to you via mail. Piecemeal. Let's hope your discovery makes it to you, Mr. Cosgrove, and then hopefully it makes it to you, Mr. Betterow in New Jersey. Seriously, like we can, we're in 2025, right? We've had electronic computers and stuff since the 80s, and you can upload stuff and just go ahead and give it to people. So finally, the judge said, "Okay, listen, if you cannot file this, or if you cannot give this piece of paper to the court in the allotted time, you can at least email the parties your motion or whatever it is that you're trying to do, file it electronically, send it to them via email, and then you can get to the court in a timely manner and go ahead and file it with the court. I will allow that." And everybody's like, "Yay, thank goodness." So this judge is definitely a refreshing step in the right direction. So, when is Aiden gonna get his day in court? We still don't know. We can't answer that question. Tim Bradle said, "Listen, we're especially in the window intimidation charges. They don't even have the discovery from that. Where's that at? Who knows? Because that was done in March of 25. I don't know. It's December. We don't need no stinking discovery. We don't even know what the alleged crime was. We don't know what was said to the grand jury, Your Honor, so we don't know how they got this indictment. Eh, no worries." But this judge did say, listen, they have Rule 14 obligations that they have to give over this information and this discovery to you in a timely manner. And if they don't, there will be sanctions. And I just about laughed. I laughed so hard. If you're not laughing with me, then you don't understand. And that is, there has been zero repercussions on anybody in the Commonwealth for not turning over discovery on time. Zero. I've yet to see any sanctions. And if you don't believe me, go watch Trial 4 on Netflix. It is a 1993 case in which Sean Ellis was accused of killing a Boston police officer and had to go through 4 trials. I kid you not. 4 different trials. And in the end, Rosemary Scapiccio takes up his case. And she is standing in front of the judge like 20 odd years later. I could be mistaken on the time. And she's like, "Your Honor, we're still getting discovery." She's like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, we just got this discovery." And the prosecution is like, "Yeah, Your Honor, Yeah, we know it's like 20 something here, and yeah, we just got some discovery, and we just handed that over, and the judge was flabbergasted. She was like, "You're kidding me. You're kidding me." So in that, he ended up Sean Ellis ended up going to jail, and the judge said Rosemary Scapicchio was there to get him a new trial and on an appeals process. And to get a new trial on an appeals process is the toughest thing ever. You have to have new evidence come in that said that is astonishingly enough that the trial judge is like, "Okay, well, I guess we're going to have to try this again." And also, that was one thing. I don't wanna spoil it for you, but the other thing was the discovery. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you're in a violation of this discovery. So what is the repercussion of that? A new trial, not sanctions." Because again, who's she gonna give sanctions to? Because all those people that were trying the case that didn't turn over discovery, they're either retired or no longer on the case. So discovery, you don't need no stinking discovery to do a trial. You're just going to have to just deal with what we give you in Massachusetts. All right. So the next court date is headed for January 23rd. Yes, the train is moving. The train is moving forward. It is a motion to disqualify Cosgrove. In one of Aiden's earlier cases, he had the person was his ex-paramour, his ex-lover. They were having a case. The ex-lover had her phone downloaded by Brian Tully. If you haven't heard that name again, just roll your eyes because just wait. He comes up later on. So does Proctor. All these people, they come back up. It's a case that keeps giving. They just keep giving more and more and more. And you're just like, how is this possible? But I tell you, I am not making this stuff up. I swear I'm not making it up. So uh Cosgrove, who I showed you earlier here, who is the special prosecutor in Aiden Kearney's case of the two intimidating cases. Cosgrove was also involved in this other case. It was sort of like a DV, domestic violence sort of situation with his ex paramour. And in that, they had downloaded this woman's cell phone, and unfortunately, it went out to the world. And she's like, why did you download everything? You were only supposed to download these certain things. But in Massachusetts, the police officers don't care. They just download everything because, who, you know, they can, in the Celebrate and the Axiom systems, they can go and they can say, oh, I only want to look at text messages. I only want to look at this. I only want to look at that. No, why would they do that? No, just download everything and we get to go through it because you gave me your phone. Same thing in the Brian Walsh case. You gave me your stuff, so I can do whatever I want. And in that, they accidentally the prosecution gave it to the defense, and Aiden Kearney's team had it. And then it ended up going out to the internet. I don't know how that happened. So the ex paramour then sues or sent a demand letter to sue Cosgrove, Michael Morrissey, and Brian Tully for pretty much violating her rights. And so in that other case, they had to recuse themselves because she's suing them. And so therefore, what happens to the case? Well, they have nobody to prosecute it, so that case is one and done. Why do they want to disqualify Cosgrove in this case? Well, say it with me, because the person who is the ex-paramour of Aiden Kearney is also a witness in this case. How do we know that? Brian Tully sent her a subpoena to go testify in front of the federal grand jury. Does that not connect her to this case? Plus, there's a lot more information that has been coming out here and there and everywhere that she is essential in this case because the prosecution's asking her questions, she's feeding them information. There's a whole bunch of other people who are feeding information because people want to get Aiden. So, should Cosgrove be kicked off of this case because he essentially is being sued by a witness in Aiden Kearney's case? Will that happen? We don't know, but that is to be determined. There is a hearing on this on the 23rd of January, 2026. And I believe that is at, oh, we don't know the time just yet because this judge is not currently sitting on the bench in Norfolk County just right now. Is still in Suffolk County. So he needs to work out where, but it's on the 23rd calendar, and that will let you know when that time is when the case comes. So if Cosgrove isn't disqualified, where do we go next? Well, uh, Aiden Kearney's team wants an evidentiary hearing. You think that's great? Bring it on. We want to hear all the bits and pieces. We want to hear all behind the scenes things about Kate Peters. What did she do? I also heard Betterow mention something about Jen McCabe's Facebook pages. What has Jen McCabe been saying on Facebook? I don't know the information on that. Wouldn't you like to know? So, if not an evidentiary hearing, then possibly kick the can down the road if everything continues on a track. Maybe a trial happen in November or December of 2026. But crossing fingers, I'm sure you are as well if you know the Aiden Kearney case. Let's just dismiss this and get this over with because there's so many things that are coming out. It's bananas, and why this case is even still pending is beyond me. But I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a common person who has opinions, and it's crazy that they're continuing on this train, and we need to get off of this. So let's move on. All right, what's going on in the Karen Read civil case? As you know, or if you don't know, I'm going to tell you. Karen Read was dating John O'Keefe. They had gone out to a night of drinking. Karen had John dropped off, apparently, at 34 Fairview at the home of Brian and Nicole Albert. Brian Albert is a police officer, Boston police officer. John O'Keefe was a Boston police officer. They were going there for an after party. This is their third destination that evening. John exits Karen's car. Karen does a backup maneuver. We don't know exactly what happened. Karen takes off, goes to John's house because she's not feeling well. She thinks she dropped John off. She's trying to contact John. John doesn't respond. Karen goes to sleep. She wakes up, goes to go look for John. John is found on the 34 Fairview's lawn at around 6 a.m. approximately. In Karen Read's case or in her trial, one of the things that were discovered by the FBI, they hired some engineering experts to state whether or not did Karen hit him with her car. And they said, no, Karen Read's car did not hit John O'Keefe. John O'Keefe was not hit by a car. His injuries do not state that. He has a gash on the back of his head. His eyes were puffy. He had bruises and stuff on his hands. He looked like he'd been into a fight. And even Michael Lenk, who was a police officer on Canton, who was one of the ones that responded, even stated that to that effect. Even the coroner who examined him could not determine what his injuries were and the manner of death. She said he didn't have hypothermia. So how long was he on the lawn? If he was on the lawn since Karen left around 12:30 a.m. and he wasn't found until 6, so that's approximately 5.5 hours. He didn't have hypothermia, so what happened to him? Karen Read's team says that John went into the house. There was a fight. He was left on the lawn, right? So Karen Read had 2 trials. First trial, mistrial. Second trial, she was acquitted. She only got accused or convicted of a OUI, DUI, whatever state you're in. That's what it says, that she was driving while under the influence. She got probation for a year. Done schmun. Well, the O'Keefe family, John's brother, and his family is suing Karen civilly, saying that she caused the death of John O'Keefe. So Paul O'Keefe, Peggy, and John O'Keefe, the parents, the niece, are suing her for wrongful death of John O'Keefe. In that night, they're also suing the bars. C.F. McCarthy's was one of the first bars that John and Karen went to. She got served alcohol. Then they went to the Waterfall bar. She got served alcohol there. Funny thing is, though, she didn't purchase anything. It was all John. So, how much did she drink? You don't know. How are you going to prove that? So what's going on in the civil case? Pretty much not much is going on. Karen Reed was going to sue everybody else. We'll get to that in just a second. Was going to sue everybody else civilly for violating her rights, etc. That case is moved to federal court, so it's not being combined with this one. So we're talking about two separate cases. So for the purposes of discovery, they are consolidating the cases. And what does that mean? So you're going to get a subpoena to come to the law offices to be deposed. And in this deposition, you get to be asked anything and everything from both sides. So there are lawyers for both bars. There are lawyers on Karen's side that are a whole slew of people, right? She's got insurance lawyers. She's got civil lawyers. She's got, I don't even know the rest of them. She's got like about 10 lawyers. They all get to question you. Then you've got the lawyers from the bar. They all get to question you. Then you've got Paul O'Keefe's lawyers. They get to question you. So you were on the hot seat. You're up for a barbecue, big skewers. You're just going to be toast. So House defendants and troopers who are involved all get consolidated together. They're all going to get the discovery together, deposing, etc., so that they can be then doled out to both cases. So there is a motion to compel and status hearing on Karen Reed's civil case, John O'Keefe versus Karen, the family of the O'Keefes versus Karen Reed, because they're the ones that brought the suit, is on the 19th at 2 p.m. via Zoom. And this case is staying where it's at. It's in Plymouth. It's staying there. So we probably will get to, probably get to watch that one if we can. Oh, those are okay. I should have put this one. I moved it. All right. Here we are. Karen Reed is suing everyone. Who are the players? We've mentioned some of these players. This is Jen McCabe. This is her husband, Matt McCabe. This is Jen McCabe's sister, Nicole Albert, who's married to Brian Albert. Brian Albert is a police officer. Of course, now we have Michael Proctor. Have you heard that name before? Yes. This is Yuri Buchanan. He's also a Massachusetts State Police officer. And then we have Brian Higgins. He's also he's an ATF officer. And then we have Brian Tully down here because he didn't fit into my little scheme here. So he's down here. Brian Tully. So Massachusetts State Police officer, Massachusetts State Police officer, Massachusetts State Police officer. Could they all be together and corrupt? Maybe. So this is the ATF officer, Brian Higgins. Brian Higgins and Brian Albert are very good friends. These are called the House defendants. They were all in the house when Karen Reed dropped John O'Keefe off. Did John O'Keefe have a tiff with Brian Albert? Maybe. It's a long story. You can Google it. It'll give you a great synopsis of it. Karen Reed is also suing the town of Canton and the Massachusetts State Police. So let's go to this one. Prior to this, I know you can't read it. I can try to make it a little bit bigger, but I'm not sure if I can. So Karen Reed filed some motions recently. She sent a note to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office and said, turn over everything. The Norfolk District Attorney's Office, Laura McLaughlin, if you don't know that name. She was the assistant DA on Karen Reed's first two trials. She replied and said, no way, we don't got to turn over nothing. But I'm going to go over that in a stream by itself. And in the process of all of these two civil cases going on, Michael Proctor needed to find an attorney. So they sued it. They served him with a subpoena, and he's like, didn't answer. And so they commented to his other attorney and said, hey, what's going on here? And the other attorney's like, I don't represent him, so I don't know. I can't respond. So finally, Michael Proctor got an attorney. So therefore, he now can be subpoenaed to come and give his deposition. So, Karen Reed's case, the House defendants and police entities said, no way, no schmay. We don't want this here it was filed in Bristol County. We don't want to have it tried in Bristol County. We want it to go to federal court. Now, in federal court, things move pretty quickly. Unfortunately, in federal court, we as the public don't get to see it because they do not televise federal court cases. How can we know what's going on? Well, we can see the pleadings, we can see the filings, we can see the motions. Anybody who has a Pacer account and pays for it can go ahead and get the motions, and you can see what they're trying to battle out in the motions. The trial itself, when and ever this is going to happen, because sometimes these things could take years. Just remember, they got to depose everybody. Then something might come out from those depositions. They've got to get all of the discovery material. And remember, Karen Reed was tried twice. All of this stuff comes into this civil case and the other civil case. So can you imagine all of the materials that they have to collect? It is abundant. So I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon. You can see that they're going to have status conference hearings quite a bit, but you're just going to hear more of, we don't have discovery. We don't have discovery. We're waiting for discovery. We're waiting for this. And you don't want to go to trial without all the discovery. So, and in federal court, as you heard, we probably don't get to see it. But if you want to go see it, the courtrooms are public. You can go and sit in there and you can report back. So maybe that's something I might do. We'll see. Time will tell, but we have a long way to go in that case. So let's move on. Corey Richins versus Utah. If you haven't heard me talk about this case, Corey Richins is accused of emming her husband, Eric Richins. Corey Richins allegedly had given Eric Richins a dose of fentanyl 5 times the legal limit in a cocktail beverage, perhaps a Moscow Mule, perhaps a lemon drop. We don't know what it is, but she said she made some cocktails and gave it to him. And then when in the middle of the night, she woke up and he was deceased. It is also alleged, remember, innocent until guilty, guilty until innocent, right? Innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. It is also alleged that she gave him a breakfast sandwich full of fentanyl and that he had an allergic reaction to it and almost passed in February on Valentine's Day. But she tried again a couple of weeks later in March and it worked. Why? What's the motive, means, opportunity, etc.? Corey Richins was in a real estate deal where she was buying houses and flipping them. She was severely underwater and she was purchasing houses before selling houses, and she wanted to buy this mansion and start flipping that. She didn't have the funds to do it. So she was allegedly trying to get money, life insurance, and whatever he had in his own personal bank accounts, because he had his own business. He had like a concrete landscaping business and he was very successful. And on top of that, she too had a paramour. So she was having a relationship with somebody else, I think in the real estate world, but I'm not sure if I remember that. So while she was out gallivanting with her paramour on the 14th of February, while Eric Richins was having an allergic reaction, almost dying, almost passing away from his fentanyl sandwich. Why is this case so interesting? Well, it took a while for the police to find out what Corey was up to and how Eric passed away because they didn't have access to her phone. Again, we talked about this before, but when you are criming and you give your phone over to the police, you do not have to tell them what your password is. And so it took them a while to crack the code. And in the meantime, while they were waiting to crack the code to get her information, she wrote a children's book about how to deal with grief. Let's see if I have that. No. How to deal with grief. And she went on television and radio shows promoting her book because her children lost their father. And so therefore she wrote a book about it. But not anywhere in that book does it say that she was the one that helped with that and helped to unalive him. So that's why it's kind of a little sensational. Plus, also there's a paramour and there's money, 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 love, lust, somebody else, right? So what's going on in the Corey Richins case? Well, let's move to the next slide. So recently, Corey wanted to have bail because one of the witnesses in her case, I don't want to say necessarily recanted, but he changed his story up. He's like, I didn't give no fentanyl, I only give pills. So uh, in Corey's text messages, she had a go between. So she would text a person and say, I would like XYZ narcotics, and then that person would go to the person who sold them. So the initial person who sold them said, I didn't give fentanyl, so I don't know what you're talking about. I only gave opioids. I only give pills. But Corey's asking for fentanyl. So somehow or another, she got fentanyl. This gentleman who's saying, I didn't sell any fentanyl. Is that an egregious effect on the case? No. But Corey's like, I want out while I'm pending trial. Please let me go. And the judge was like, no way, honey. Nope, 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 nope. So as you see here, he said that, the key witness statements to detectives in 2023, then in 2025, made, even though they were made 2 years ago to the events in question, he said that the it doesn't make it unusable in court. So sorry, no bail for you, Corey. Gotta stay where you are. So she's also being charged with a whole bunch of financial crimes. She basically doctored a document. She took the heading of her statement, your name, your address, your account number, the bank that you're with, etc. And then she took Eric's bank statement and put it in the middle to make it look like she had money. And then I guess hers was on the bottom. So she I don't know, she copied and pasted, and that's a crime. You can't do that. You cannot say that you have money in your bank account when you don't. So she also has a whole bunch of financial crimes against her. She forged bank documents. She had an appearance yesterday. Unfortunately, we don't know anything. I have searched and searched and searched. I don't know nothing. Um, so one of the problems in her case is how much publicity is she getting in this case? Her case is getting ready to go to trial. The defense has been exclaiming from the whole entire world, we want to change a venue. There's not enough people in Summit County, Utah, that's going to not know about this case. So she is just outside of a major metropolitan city in Utah. Maybe Salt Lake is what I'm guessing. So they're in Summit County, which is just right outside. So they don't have the biggest jury pool there as they do in Salt Lake. And so they have been boasting to high heaven that they want to change a venue because they're not going to find jurors who haven't heard about the case and don't have a bias. And the judge said, well, there's a remedy for that. First of all, we are not changing venues. It's staying here. He said, let's go through the voir dire, the jury process, and let's see what jurors we can or cannot get from this pool that we're going to this large pool we're going to ask for. Let's see what we get from that. And if we can't get that, then perhaps we move it. Or we can also get jurors from that area and bring them in. But right now, we're not talking about that, but we still have to go through the process. So on the 5th, yesterday, she had a pre-trial conference. And unfortunately, we don't know exactly what happened because it was not televised, or I haven't seen anything on YouTube or anything in the world that said it had been televised and what had transpired. The judge is trying to limit the public's exposure in this case. He is not thrilled with how the media has handled this case. He's not thrilled with having live courtroom, uh, a pool camera in the courtroom doing a live stream. What he's done instead is kind of adopted, like maybe Idaho's version, where you have like people sitting fixed and you're not fixated on one person or another, but also if he does stream something, he doesn't release it until a day or so afterwards. So it's already happened. So the only way that you might be able to go see exactly what's happening in the Corey Richins case is to be sitting in the court. And I don't live in Utah, so that's not going to happen. So we don't know exactly what happened on the 5th, but as soon as I know, I'll let you know. But what we do know is that there is still a defense motion to exclude some expert witnesses that is set for January 7th at 9:30. And then really, really, really important is the admissibility of, say it with me, law nerds, the walk the dog letter. If you don't know what the walk the dog letter is, go back into my Corey Richins case updates and her case. She basically wrote a letter that says walk the dog on the top of it. And it was a letter to her mother and her brother about what they should testify to. And you can't do that. That's witness intimidating. That's definitely witness intimidation, saying what you should tell. This is what you should say. So in the beginning, Corey Richins had a different lawyer. She said that this walk the dog letter was for her lawyer and that it was supposed to be attorney-client privilege. But the way that it was presented, it didn't seem that way, so that it was definitely read. And whatever you write in court, it can be discoverable. It can go to the prosecution. Also, if you're sorry, not in court, in jail. If you write something in jail, the jail people read it, right? And then if it's discoverable, they give it to the prosecution and then they can be used against you, right? If it's for your attorney, you're supposed to like have it labeled and put somewhere else that it's between you and your attorneys, etc. Again, I forget what the controversy was, whether she did or she didn't do that. The defense is saying that that is a attorney-client privilege and it shouldn't come in. And the prosecution is like, this is an attorney-client privilege, because before she said, I'm writing a book and this is part of my stuff for my book. Well, if that's the case, then it's part of exculpatory evidence used against you that you're intimidating witnesses in your own case. So that is a very important part. That will it come in? Will only part of it come in? Will none of it come in? So that is also to be determined on the 8th of January. But this trial is moving ahead. It is still set to go to trial, jury selection to begin on February 10th. And then it takes as long as it's going to take. And maybe they'll get a jury by the 23rd of February. That's their hope. So stay tuned. And we don't know what's going to be televised and what isn't. So stay tuned, because as you know, sometimes they put trials forward and they set a date and they're like, this is the date. But you can never hold it true to that point, because even up until the date of the trial, just like in Brian Walshe, he can stop and say, nope, I'm going to plead guilty. And then it ends and there's no trial, right? Or in Brian Walshe's case, he pled to 2 of the counts and said, nope, I'm going to roll the dice and go to the trial on this first count. So you never know what's going to happen between now and then. But you can go ahead and put this on your calendar if you're into what trial watch, and then you can just wait and see whether or not that will or will not happen. Okay, buckle up, because now we're on Aaron Spencer versus Arkansas. And if you haven't heard this case, oh my goodness, this is a good one. You can go back into my channel and you can look up Aaron Spencer and get sort of the full details of what is happening. Aaron Spencer is being accused of unaliving Michael Fossler. What transpired in this case? Aaron Spencer's daughter, who was 13 at the time, was having an inappropriate relationship with a 67-year-old man, Michael Fossler. Again, I cannot make this stuff up. Is she having a consensual relationship with a 67-year-old man and she is 13? Well, that's what the prosecution alleges. There was a consensual relationship, and so everything was hunky dory. Aaron Spencer woke up in the middle of the night to find that his daughter was not in her bed. Their dog was barking very loudly, and so Aaron Spencer said, "Where's my daughter?" Just a couple of months prior, they had found out that this relationship between Michael Fossler and their daughter was transpiring. They then reported it to the police. The police came out, took her report. Michael Fossler was arrested, and he was charged with 42 counts of SAing and inappropriate contact with Spencer's daughter alone. No other victims are to be alleged in this account. 42 counts. 42 counts of what? We don't know because his case is sealed because it involves a minor. So Aaron Spencer wakes up in the middle of the night. It's like, where's my daughter? He knows immediately something happened to her and she's gone. He tells his wife, you call 911. I'm going to go find her. He gets into his truck, goes down the road, sees Michael Fossler's truck, sees that there is a passenger in Michael Fossler's truck. He tries to have Michael Fossler stop, but flashing his lights, trying to get his attention. He doesn't stop. So then he taps his truck. Michael Fossler does a spin, ends up in the ditch. Aaron Spencer gets out and says, come on out, and tells his daughter, come on out, come on out. Fossler reaches over and grabs her and doesn't let her out of them. Mind you, this is Aaron Spencer's accounts of things. Doesn't let his daughter out of the car. Finally, Fossler gets out of the car. Aaron Spencer tells him to put his hands up and get down on his knees because the police are coming and they're going to arrest him. Fossler said the F you to him and that he went to go grab something. Fossler thought it was a gun, so Fossler just shot him right there. Boom, 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 boom. He said he used everything in his gun. So Michael Fossler obviously is not going to be recovering from that, and Spencer unalived him. Spencer got his daughter, started consoling his daughter. The police arrived. Aaron Spencer then now is charged with unaliving Fossler in the street. What? Is Spencer justified in his actions by protecting his daughter from her rapist? Question mark, question mark, question mark. But the prosecution's saying, no, they had a consensual relationship, so he's not graping her. He lured her in the middle of the night when he was supposed to have a no contact order against her and lured her to get out of her room at midnight. So that is what is going on. Now, the judge in this case, her name is Barbara Elmore. She is the same judge that sentenced or put the indictment on to Michael Fossler. And she let Michael Fossler go on a $50,000 bond. So he only had to do was post, 10%. So he posted $5,000 and he's out on the streets. Guess what? To go ahead and contact Spencer's daughter. And apparently I think that he contacted her about 2 to 3 other times within this 3-month period. So I think he got arrested in June or July. This incident happened in October. And he contacted Fossler's daughter within that time frame that he wasn't supposed to have contact with her. So Barbara Elmore, she is setting this thing for trial. She is on the track and she's like, I'm not messing about. You're not messing about. This is going. So there is a pre-trial hearing on December the 17th. Will this be televised? I don't know. This is in Lone Oak, Arkansas. So I'm thinking like this is a very small town, very small community, very small courthouse. There's only 2 judges. She should recuse herself because she's involved with Fossler, but so far nobody said anything. So she's still on the track to try this case. So pre-trial hearing is December 17th. Will we get to see? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. The trial is set for starting on the 26th of January. Will that happen? We don't know. The Spencer's defense attorneys are asking for this to be dismissed. They're like, why are you even trying him? This should be dismissed. So the motions are coming in. So all motions were due on November 24th. The prosecution and the defense both asked, could they please have an extension? Barbara Elmo said, hold my beer. No way, Jose. She's like, nope. we're on the fast track to get this going. I want to get this off of my docket. So she said, nope. So all responses were due by December 3rd. And let me tell you, they are the juiciest filings I've ever read. You can go, both the state and the defense are going back and forth. And I still can't believe that the prosecution is accusing this 13-year-old girl of having a consensual relationship with a 67-year-old man. You can't make this stuff up. Okay. Do you see my little note down here? Aaron Spencer's running for sheriff. I kid you not, in Lone Oak. So the current sheriff, just FYI, is in this trial, right? And that sheriff is also wanting to be reelected. And so Spencer's like, hey, I'm throwing my hat in the ring as well. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're convicted of a crime, do you get to be running for sheriff? I don't think so, because how are you going to be sheriff if you're in jail? Now, hopefully he doesn't go to jail, but we don't know how the law is going to happen. We don't know if the jurors are going to see it the other way. So I'll do an update on the case as much as I can. There is a missing camera footage. Apparently, Michael Fossler had a dash cam camera on his truck. And apparently the sheriff, I kid you not, took the SD file out of the camera, watched it, put it back, put it into evidence, and guess what? You're not gonna believe this. It's missing. Dun dun dun. Does that sound familiar? Camera footage is missing. Can anybody say it with me? Karen Reed case. Where did it go? We don't know. So they're arguing over that. Now, justification. That is a defense that can be used. So the defense is saying he was justified in his actions. So that's going to be the route that they're going, and it's going to be really good. Now, apparently, we heard in the filings that Fossler had a girlfriend, and the Spencers went to this girlfriend to find out more information about Fossler because they just found out that their daughter was having an inappropriate relationship with him, and she told on them, and that's how the police got involved. So there's a big hubbub about that as well. Will his case be dismissed? Will it go to trial? Again, both the defense and the prosecution had asked for more time, and the judge said no. So they're on the fast track to getting things done. There's no cameras in the courtroom. Or will there be cameras in the courtroom? Is it Zoom cameras only? No Zoom? A pool camera? Is the media going to pick this up? We don't know. Or is it just boots on the ground? People have to be in the courthouse to report on this. Don't know. So cross our fingers, hope that we get some coverage on this, because this case definitely needs our attention. You cannot make this stuff up. You cannot say, I like, even if I had to write a script for this, I would never have written this. So that's where we're at. Wow. So a lot is going on in our court cases today. If you have something that you'd like for me to cover, put it in the comments, send me a chat, write a note. Let me know what you're following, what case here on these case briefs that you're interested in, or what's going on. Are you following the Brian Walshe case? Are you following Aiden Kearney? What's going on in Karen Reed? What are your thoughts and opinions? I'd like to know. I'd love to chat with you. So this is all that we have for today. Again, starting Monday morning, we're back on watching gavel to gavel coverage for the Brian Walshe trial. So last we left off, the medical examiner was testifying as to what was left on the carpeting. Is it tissue material? What could it be? And what is he going to tell us about whether or not how Anna passed away? So thanks for joining me for another round of Legalese 1, 2, 3. I'm your host, Missy K. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. I'm on the Tickety Talk, the Clock app. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Go like and you'll see. And if you like and subscribe and get notified, you'll know when I come back on to give you the latest and greatest. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again on Monday. Thanks for watching Legalese 1, 2, 3. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe for more content.